Episode 3 Brahmarshi Vishwamithra. The sage Vishwamithra was a Brahmarshi, a seer of the highest spiritual attainment. Yet, he had not always lived the life of a sage. In earlier times, he had been a powerful Kshatriya king. The journey that led him from royal authority to supreme spiritual realization was long and extraordinary. In ancient ages, there lived a noble being named Kusha. He was a Manasaputra of Lord Brahma, one born not through ordinary means, but from the very mind of the Creator. Kusha had 4 sons, Kushamba, Kushanabha, Adhurtarajassu, and Vasu. When his sons came of age, Kusha summoned them and spoke with guidance and foresight. "My sons, establish kingdoms of your own and govern them with righteousness." Obeying their father's command, the 4 princes set forth. Kushamba founded the city of Kushambi and ruled there. Kushanaba became the sovereign of Mahodaya. Adhurtarajassu governed Dharmaranya. Vasu established his rule in Girivraja. Each of them upheld dharma and earned renown as just and virtuous rulers. From Kushanabha was born a son named Gadhi. Gadhi, in turn, had a son called Kaushika. Kaushika was a mighty king. At one time, he set out upon a grand expedition across the earth, accompanied by a formidable army, an Akshohini in strength. Such an army consisted of 4 great divisions: elephants, chariots, cavalry, and infantry. An Akshohini army was vast beyond imagination. It consisted of 21,870 chariots, an equal number of elephants, 65,010 horses, and 1,300,000 foot soldiers. With such immense forces accompanying him, King Kaushika journeyed across kingdoms, crossing rivers and mountains, leaving many lands behind. In the course of his travels, he arrived at the hermitage of the sage Vasishtha. Vasishtha was no ordinary ascetic. He was one of the mind-born sons of Brahma and counted among the revered Saptarshis, the 7 great sages of the Vishwamithra Manvantara. He was the founder of a distinguished lineage, a progenitor of a great Gotra. By the power of his spiritual radiance, he had subdued fierce Rakshasas and had once restored strength to Indra himself. His wife was Arundhati, the noble daughter of Devahuti. Through years of intense austerity and wisdom, Vasishtha had attained the exalted rank of Brahmarshi. His hermitage was a sanctuary of serenity. Blossoms of many hues adorned trees and vines, perfuming the air with fragrance. Birds of countless kinds filled the atmosphere with their melodious calls. Deers moved freely without fear. Celestial beings, Siddhas, Charanas, and Gandharvas were said to frequent the sacred grounds. Everywhere, sages were absorbed in meditation, oblivious to the world beyond their inner vision. King Kaushika approached this tranquil abode with reverence. Leaving his mighty army stationed outside the hermitage, he entered quietly and bowed respectfully before Vasishtha. The sage welcomed the king with warmth, offering blessings and inviting him to be seated nearby. He inquired kindly about Kaushika's welfare, his family, and the condition of his kingdom. Then, with gracious insistence, Vasishtha urged the king and his entire retinue to accept the hospitality of the ashram. Kaushika agreed gladly. Vasishtha then summoned the divine cow named Nandini, who dwelt within the hermitage. She was no ordinary creature. She was the daughter of Kamadhenu, the wish-fulfilling cow of heavenly origin, capable of manifesting whatever was desired. The sage addressed her gently. "O sacred mother, King Kaushika and his attendants are our honored guests. Provide them with a feast worthy of their station." In an instant, a magnificent banquet appeared. Dishes were arranged in shining vessels and plates. The spread was abundant beyond measure. Rich preparations, sweet delicacies, honey, clarified butter, milk, curds, and countless other offerings. The guests were astonished and delighted. Even the women who had accompanied the king looked on in wonder at the lavish hospitality that had materialized in a place so simple and serene. The royal party was overwhelmed with satisfaction. The feast had exceeded every expectation. Kaushika's priests, ministers, commanders, and attendants were equally delighted by the abundance and refinement of the offerings. King Kaushika himself felt both pleasure and amazement. How could a single cow, in the space of a moment, manifest such extraordinary hospitality? The wonder soon gave way to desire. A thought took root in his mind. He must possess this miraculous cow. Turning to sage Vasishtha, he spoke respectfully. "O revered sage, kindly grant me this cow, Nandini." But Vasishtha could not comply. Nandini was no ordinary animal to be given or exchanged. She was a divine gift entrusted to the sage to assist in sacred rites and to sustain the hermitage's hospitality. Calmly, Vasishtha explained that he had neither the right nor the wish to part with her. Yet the king's desire intensified. "Great sage," Kaushika urged, "in return for Nandini, I shall give you thousands of cows. I shall heap before you immense treasures of gold. Only grant her to me." Vasishtha replied with quiet firmness, "O king, do not attempt to value Nandini by worldly measures. She is of celestial origin. She is not mine to give away, nor will she leave me." These words ignited anger in Kaushika's heart. His longing hardened into stubborn resolve, and wisdom abandoned him. His tone changed. "Vasishtha," he declared, "it was out of respect for your spiritual stature that I made my request, but you refuse me. Know that I am the sovereign of this land. All wealth within it falls under my authority. If persuasion fails, I shall take Nandini by force. Let us see how you will prevent me." With that, he ordered his soldiers to seize the cow. The warriors advanced, but as they approached, Nandini shook her body once and the soldiers were thrown back in disarray. They returned in greater numbers, attempting to bind her with ropes. The cow let out a mighty cry, and instantly from her own being emerged countless warriors, armed with formidable weapons. In moments, Kaushika's forces were scattered and defeated. Kaushika himself remained stunned and humiliated. That a powerful monarch commanding an Akshohini should be overcome in a hermitage by a sage's cow was a blow to his pride beyond measure. Shame and anguish churned within him. At last, he spoke to himself with grim determination. "So be it. I shall have my revenge," he thought to himself. Burning with humiliation, Kaushika returned to his capital. He divided his kingdom among his sons and renounced royal comforts. Determined to acquire power greater than any earthly force, he journeyed to the foothills of the Himalayas. There, he undertook severe and relentless austerities to propitiate Lord Shiva. His penance was fierce, his concentration unwavering. At last, Shiva appeared before him, pleased with his devotion. "Ask," said the Lord, "and I shall grant your wish." Kaushika requested mastery over formidable celestial weapons, and the boon was granted. Armed now with divine weaponry and renewed confidence, Kaushika returned to the hermitage of sage Vasishtha. This time, he came not as a guest, but as a challenger. Without hesitation, he released a blazing missile that ignited the hermitage in flames. Fire leapt skyward, threatening to reduce the sacred retreat to ashes. The sages and inhabitants were stricken with fear. Seated at the heart of the ashram, he held before him his Brahmadanda, the staff empowered by spiritual knowledge. As the flames surged forward, they seemed to recoil. Gradually, they subsided and were extinguished. Kaushika was astonished. He unleashed another powerful weapon, yet before it could strike, the Brahmadanda absorbed its force completely. One after another, he hurled missiles of increasing might. Each was swallowed effortlessly by the sage's staff. No harm touched Vasishtha or his hermitage. The king's arsenal dwindled. At last, only one remained, the Brahmastra, supreme among the weapons, capable of annihilating creation itself. As Kaushika invoked it, the very three worlds trembled, the air quivered in dread. With fierce determination, he released the devastating missile. Yet, even the Brahmastra met the same fate. The Brahmadanda absorbed it, rendering it powerless. Silence fell. Kaushika stood shattered in spirit. His pride collapsed beneath the weight of realization. He understood at last the true source of Vasishtha's strength. The sage possessed Brahmabala, the power born of spiritual purity, serenity, and inner discipline. It was Satvikabala, the strength of restraint, wisdom, and truth. Kaushika, by contrast, had relied upon Rajasikabala, the force of ambition, passion, and domination. In that moment, he saw clearly worldly might was nothing before spiritual power. Kaushika now understood that his failure had not been due to a lack of weapons, but a lack of inner strength. Before the serene power of Satvikabala, strength of purity and spiritual realization, his own forceful and passionate might had proved meaningless. There remained only one path before him. He must attain that higher power. Resolving firmly, Kaushika turned away from conflict and embraced austerity. Traveling southward, he immersed himself in rigorous tapas. Years passed as he endured hardship with unwavering focus, dedicating himself wholly to the spiritual discipline. At length, Lord Brahma appeared before him. "Kaushika," the Creator declared, "your devotion has pleased me. From this day forward, you shall be known as a Rajarshi, a royal sage." But though honored, Kaushika was not content. The title of Rajarshi did not fulfill his deepest aspiration. He sought the highest spiritual rank, that of Brahmarshi. And so, without hesitation, he resumed his austerities, this time even more severe, more intense, and more unwavering than before.